Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to do a review of Sniper Elite, the board game. Some of you have played Sniper Elite, the video game, some of you have not. This is a board game based on Sniper Elite, the video game. It's made by David Thompson, known for War Chest, Undaunted, and a few other mega hits, and Roger Tankersley. It's a game for 1 to 4 players. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, let's take a look at what comes inside Sniper Elite. There is a single-sided board, or sorry, a double-sided board. So you've got two different maps to choose from in the base game. This is one of the maps which we'll be playing or doing an example of shortly. You've got your sub-pen here, or your submarine here, and you've got other objectives around this map. You'll notice different areas of the map are not necessarily they're not created equal. There's different lengths and stuff. It gets really interesting. We'll go over that later, but this is the map that you will be playing on as the sniper and the defenders. You have a timer track here. Your defenders, well, your sniper will have a chance to take actions, then your defenders will take actions in lockstep. The idea is if you as the defenders can get from 10 to 1, if you can take 10 defenses without the sniper being able to complete one of his two objectives, then you will win. Otherwise, if the sniper completes an objective as you're going down and doing your actions, if they manage to complete an objective, the first one, it resets, everyone goes back up, and then it tries again. At any point in time, if you can keep the sniper from reaching that objective, again, if it gets all the way here and you've kept the sniper at bay, then you will win. If not, you will lose. The other thing is, I don't have the token here, but if you damage the sniper twice, then you also win, because sniper, no sniping. All right, and then as the defender, you have an opportunity to have these three specific commanders, leaders, that will each one has a set of 2 additional soldiers that they will lead into battle, or by leading into battle, trying to find you and take you out. Here we have, get back there, multicolored situation here where these black cubes match these black bottomed tokens here. Here's your commander, here's his 2 soldiers. Same thing with red. Red here, 2 soldiers, all coordinated. You'll notice that there's a red, a yellow, and a black sector, as well as 2 white sectors. These are just used to be able to mess around, to try and like coordinate and go, hey, it could be here, there. You can kind of use them however you want, but when a sniper creates noise that he has to inform the other soldiers about, sometimes you can mark and go, hey, he heard a sound and stuff, just to try to narrow down where the heck the sniper that you can't see is. Let's talk about the sniper. Sniper gets their own board. Sniper, much sniping. And so you will be able to start here. You have this very stealthy pen, which you can't see it, it's so fast. And it will be able to help you as you, the sniper, are moving on your track here over the course of turns to be able to achieve the proper objectives that you complete. And speaking of objectives, there's a funny like playing card level type thing where you're going to grab, for each map has a different set of objective numbers. And so, for example, this map is the red side, the red playing cards, but you'll notice these cards will all coordinate in number to these areas here. So you've got, oh, sorry, that's why that, never mind. So yeah, and so you can pick you'll get 2 objectives as long as they're not of the same suit. In other words, you got to spread around the objectives, so you don't just like cherry pick 2 ones easy and get away with it. Not going to be that nice on the sniper. You also have special equipment as the sniper, which you can choose 3 of. You can also theoretically loot and grab more goodies if you wish during the course of play. These all have different effects. They tell you what they do. They tell you when to reveal them. Life is good. So you get your 2 objectives. You get your sniper, which will not be on the map for the most part if you do your job right. And then finally, we have the bag of sniper decisioning, and that is this. This bag has these tokens. Nice. I got the deluxe edition, so they're nice and thick. And yeah, yes. So, oh, So you're going to start off with 6 of these in the bag. These are the good guys. These are the I hit you. These are the darn like jammed. Oh, sadness. And these are the noise. If you ever pull 2 of these, you're going to make noise, and that means you're going to give away your position, and that's going to make it easier for the defenders to find you and hunt you down and make you sad in physical ways. All right. So with that, that's all the components. Now we're going to get into an example of play. Before I get into that example of play, though, let me explain one thing. You also get, if you get the expansion, you're going to get the Eagle's Nest, which gives you 4 distinct custom snipers. They're going to have their own special abilities. You may choose to employ that. You also have new loadout cards, which gives you a little more variety than what comes in the box. Get back here. And then you're going to get an extra double-sided map. So you're going to have a total of 4 maps. These maps are a little more tricky, which I like. They got a little more going for them as far as moving and locating yourself, etc. Also, I didn't fail to mention there is a full-featured, very different solo rule set, and that comes with its own components done by the infamous and famous David Shirtsey. It has its own set of rules, so we'll have you what does that one guy say? You know, discover it on your own. Anyway, there's a whole deck. There's a whole situation set up for how you handle the solo. So rock on. Now let's get into gameplay. Okay, let's go over a turn of Sniper Elite. Now, what happens is that the sniper goes first. The sniper will win when the sniper is able to complete 2 objectives. Our 2 objectives are here. We need to locate the report on local resistance right here, and we need to destroy the weapons cache. 7. No cache for you, Johnny. Alright, we have the board configured in its initial state. Everything in a place for everything. You've got your defense units, and all the squads or their teams are ready to go. You as the sniper are not going to be seen on the board in a normal game. That's just not how it works, Charlie. What you're going to do instead is decide a place based on your objectives that you are going to enter the map. You cannot enter the map in any of the quadrants that match any of the objectives. For example, this is 3, yellow. Can't go in the yellow entry. This is 7. This is black. Can't go in the black chart. So I'm going to go through here. And on my first turn as the sniper, I have some opportunities. I can do silent moving, I can shoot, or I complete an objective, or loot. Loot is probably the least likely thing you're going to do most of the time. Now, because this is a game where I have to basically hide from myself, but not hide from you, the valuable viewer, this sniper, if you do your job right, it ain't going to be on the map. But for our purposes, I'm placing it on the map because that's how I'm going to help keep track of my own sanity. Alright, our choices are to move 0, 1, 2, or 3 spaces. If I move 0 or 1 space, I have silent moved. No one needs to know about it. No one needs to care. The only thing about movement to be mindful of is you cannot move into a location that has a defensive unit in it. That becomes interesting information for the defenders as they try to block you in. However, if you can move 2 to 3 spaces. Moving 2 to 3 spaces makes it so now you're running. Running means you make noise. Noise means anything adjacent to any portion of the spaces you moved, start, finish, and anywhere in between, you will be noted as having moved through there, which will give insight for the defenders on where you are. In this case, we're pretty fortunate. I'm going to move 1, 2, 3. I'm going to move in here. Wahaha! Take that, caboose man. And that's what I'm going to do. Now, I have an opportunity here because I've moved. I can also shoot. I can't complete an objective because I'm not there yet. I'm trying to get here. But I can shoot. Now, shooting requires some line of sight rule understanding, and I want to explain this pretty clearly because it's different. Line of sight rules in games of this nature are pretty much like butts. Everyone's got one, and they're all a little different. In this case, you might be used to games where you've got like, hey, if you can see from the center of here to the center of here, you've got line of sight without blocking into a wall. Or from corner to corner or whatever. There's 2 things you got to exercise from your mind. One is that's not how it works in Sniper Elite at all. Don't consider that in the equation. This is not a geometric line of sight kind of system, despite the fact that there are lots of different squares. The other thing is, whereas you kind of mentally build up a map in your mind in other games where everything that's blocked off in big lines like this means it's just a solid wall, where you're basically running around like a labyrinthian like rat in a maze of moving cheese that you want to shoot. That's not how it works here. There's a lot of fluidity and there's frankly a lot of freeform nature to Sniper Elite when it comes to its line of sight rules. The biggest thing is, don't ask yourself, what can't I shoot? Or can I shoot this? Ask yourself instead, give me a reason not to shoot here, to shoot this guy, because the rules are very fluid. Let's go over it very clearly. The rules are, you have your open areas, these are your white open spaces. You have enclosures, and they are noted by black terrain, and then you have other areas, more complicated rules for some of the complicated maps or more complex maps that involve height. Those will get you could get into, and they provided a little extra rule set. But for this particularly simple map, just understand, like, you can shoot a lot of stuff you wouldn't be able to in most normal games. For example, in other games, a lot of other games, you're here, this is a big block, looks like a big wall, you'd have to either aim around here or move out here, and then you couldn't shoot any of these because, well, there's walls in separating. Forget the walls. Pretend the walls are Swiss cheese. I really apparently love cheese today. Think of it like this. Sniper Elite wants you to act like a sniper. It wants you to get rid of the idea that you're a tank walking around pretending to be stealthy. You're a sniper. When you walk in through here, you're not walking in. For one thing, no one can see you. The other thing is you got to think of what you do if you're playing the video game. You're in there, you're peeking here, you're here. There's walls, there's doors, there's windows, everything around here. The solidity of these is questionable at best because that's not how it works in the real world. So you go through here and imagine that you're here. Well, you could definitely see the, say this is a window. Pretend that as a sniper, role play yourself going here, going to a window and looking out. Now normally you'd be going, square wall. No, imagine these guys doing their normal stuff. They're moving around, they're going past a door, they're going past a window, they're moving around. This is the natural order of snipers in Sniper Elite, the video game too, is that they're doing their little patrols inside, they're following their rules. So what you can do here, you literally can, as long as you don't go through, and the emphasis here is through. If your shot doesn't go through an enclosure, a black enclosure, it's valid. That's how cool it is. So for example, from here, I can peek out the window, I can see this guy at the doorway, or I can see him through a window, whatever. I can shoot both of these guys. This is something that might not be first nature to you if you've had a lot of other games dealing with that. So you're not safe here, Mr. Defenseman. You're not safe here, Defender, because you're doing your patrols. Now, here's the thing. If you go through an enclosure to try to get to a target, that's not okay, because now you're talking silly talk. Now you might be able to see a window through here, but that doesn't mean you can see through the entire other window here and be able to get this guy patrolling around. Like, okay, maybe in some perfect world you could do it, but for the sake of this game, you can't. So that's something to keep in mind, is that you have, don't ask not what your shot can do for you, ask what you can do for your shot. Lots of fluidity. So as a sniper, you have some power at your disposal to be able to hit a lot of stuff in a lot of areas. You just can't hit things that are just so far behind enclosures that they don't match. The other thing to note is that if you're in an enclosure, nothing's off limits. Everything's in sight. So in this enclosure, I can shoot anything I want in that enclosure, so don't be fooled by that. Those are basically the most important things to understand. In this case, we're going to try and shoot one of these guys. Now we decide the distance, so 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. They're equidistant. Which one do we think would be most important? If I take him out, it might alert, it's going to alert people. They're probably going to come in and collapse. If I take him out, I could do the same thing. I'm going to try and take him out. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So what we do then is we decide, and you don't have to tell anybody this, how many chits we're going to take out. Now the distance is 3. If I have to have at least 3 successes in order to pull three successes. So I'm going to pull 6. Why? Because, well, I have to pull all 6 in order to try and A, kind of be a little murky about how far away I am, and B, because there's some things in here that are not successes, and I need to be mindful of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah, crap. 5, or I mean, oh great, 6. So I could have taken 5, and I would have been absolutely fine. I didn't. So what does that mean? It means that I have successfully hit this guy. He's out. Boom. Yeah, yeah. However, my two noisemakers have required that I now reveal my position. And so what does that mean? It means now I do place it in the real world and they get to see me. And so they're going to know I'm here. And so that's not terribly awesome. There's also, we didn't get any misfire tokens or anything like that, but so I kind of double did it. That's why you got to be careful. It's kind of a trade-off, a push your luck. Like how many, you want to pull the least amount of tokens to give you some possible chance of success, but at the same time not have so many tokens that you wind up just flat out missing. It's an interesting mechanic, but that's part of my review. We'll talk about that later. So now we've done that, and that's the end of our turn. We've moved, we've shot. We don't really have a objective to complete, and we're not sitting on any place where we can loot. Basically, looting, if you go to any other location where you don't have an objective, you can take a choice to loot. But again, that might give away your location too. We haven't used any of these yet. We could, for example, sound masking, ignore any negative effects from moving 2 or 3 spaces this turn. Yeah, I could have used it, but I didn't. Well, I didn't, I mean, that wouldn't have made sense for me anyway, because the moving wasn't the problem. My moronic shooting was. All right, and that's it. Now we're going to go, and we're going to say it's time for the defenders to do their turn. So they've got some information now that they didn't have before. A, they know where I am. This is not great. So one thing that you can do, your entire squad can use up both of its points to be able to do what's called an intel gathering. An intel gathering is basically says, I'm going to take the largest chunk of the map that I want to care about and see and ask, are you in it? This is important because, well, when you're not dumb like me, this is important because if you really aren't very sure, you can use the intel to at least narrow it down to 1/3 of the map. That's kind of important at times. Instead, we're in a situation where we have the ability to move, deploy, spot, sweep, blah, blah. So let's go over those now. Now, moving right now is the most important. I'm going to move one of my guys. You have two actions to take, which means you can do 2 things. You can reuse the same unit as long as you don't give it the same action twice. Can't do the same action twice with the same unit, otherwise you're fine. So in this case, we're going to go 1, 2, which would be really, I mean, seriously, like, got a death wish. Anyway, and then I could also take this guy and go 1, 2, because we're kind of zoning in now. And that's good. So we got that. We haven't used special abilities yet. Notice that every squad has a special ability that it can use. That's what these 2 are for. You can use it twice. That's kind of cool. And some of these might be applicable in this case too. So, for example, the sniper, if I get into yellow, the tables get turned, and this leader can basically do a sniping shot the same way you could and turn the tables on you. So something to be mindful of. In this case, we're just showing you what you can do. So we've moved, and then the rest of our 2 guys, and then every unit gets to move too. Now in this case, you can move. You don't have to stay in your area. You can move around. So we're just gonna, let's move here. And then we've moved the yellow, and then we've got the red, and the red's going to go, I'm going to go here, I can move 2 spaces, and then I'm going to move here. So basically we're just kind of like, we think we know where you are, so let's kind of see if we can surround you. Because again, if you can block him off and keep him from being able to move out, for example, we block these 2 spots, he's got to shoot his way out, and that's going to give it, that's going to up the odds that he's not going to last long, just like the real game. So let's go ahead and call that good. We've done those 2. That was pretty boring, but it'll get more interesting. Now it's the sniper's turn again. What's the sniper going to do? Well, now he's got an interesting situation. He can move 0 to 1 spaces and not trigger anything, or he could move farther and let people know what he's doing. And we're going to do this. It's not a good idea. I wouldn't do this normally, but we're going to do so 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's do that. Now what's happened? What's happened is because these were adjacent to his running move, it is now notified. And again, you can take this off the map on your turn. So you might see them for a while, but like once the sniper's turn starts, they're like, hey, so somewhere around here is this guy. All right, and then again, we can shoot again, like we can shoot, say 1, 2. So we're gonna, let's do 4. And you don't have, again, you don't have to narrate this to the audience at all. But okay, so let's do 4 this time. I only need to hit 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. We don't have to alert anyone to our presence. But we did get enough to shoot the dude. So goodbye, red. And that means we get to put this, which helps negate bad things when we pick them. So we get to add this to our, yeah, it will negate the misfires. So we're basically doing better, or negate the, sorry, suppressor, negate the noise. All right, so then these go all into the bag again. So yay, we did something cool. And then we're going to call it good. Now we go again. Now we have a chance to see what our guys are going to do. And this time we're going to do some other interesting things. We're going to use black first. We're going to say, let's say that we're like, you know what, I think he's here. Now I can move in here. And for example, I could say, you know what, I know he's here. I'm going to move in here, and then I'm going to shoot, attack. Well, basically attack. If I'm in here, then I've taken a hit. Now, I don't have my hit thing. For some reason, the dog ate it. But let's just say that here, whatever. So, ouch, I've taken 1 hit. That's bad. Now, notice that I can't, no other unit can move into the other unit. So right now, there's still a chance for him to get away, even with that 1 damage. This keeps it from being where you basically just collapse in and just shoot him in one fell swoop. So yes, the sniper's been damaged, but there's not much more that can be done that turn. Okay, the other thing we can do though, say this didn't happen, and say that we wanted to do some other testing, and we wanted to go say, hey, I want to do a sweep. So I'm here, and I want to do a sweep, and I want to say, a sweep says you can take where you're in, and where you're adjacent, in two places you're adjacent, and say, are you in this spot? And then yeah, so that kind of tells you what to do, or gives you, like, it's, instead of going hold this entire region, it's let's go see in this smaller area here if you're there. So it gives you a broader, you get 3 spots to choose from. So say if I was here and I said, okay, is the sniper here, here, or here? The answer would be no. If I move here and do the same thing, is the sniper here, here, here? Yes. You won't know which of these 3 is in, but you definitely have narrowed it down. And it's all about narrowing it down. The other thing you can do is you can spot. Spot only works on an adjacent space. So unlike being able to take a swath of 3, this one you got to be pretty darn sure. So if you happen to be here and you're like, okay, I'm darn sure you're here. And so you go, are you here? If the answer is yes, they have to take a noise token. They don't get attacked, but they take a noise token, which means it's harder for them in the future to be able to get away with moving so stealthily, because they keep getting spotted, just like the game. So in this case, you could get spotted, and then, you know, move here. Of course, the sniper will be out, or sorry, why am I doing this way? Okay, pretend I had him flip-flopped. Anyway, so here, yeah, so spotted. Again, if I moved in here, I could move here. I could do a second action of red to shoot, and then that would be the end of the game for me, the sniper. So the sniper doesn't live. Sniper's not, this isn't Far Cry where you're immortal. This is Sniper where you're definitely mortal. So, and that's basically the elements, the biggest elements that you can do with the defenders. The one thing you can also do is deploy. So if you have a soldier on a, you can basically take a soldier that you have and coming, that basically is off the map, I think, and then yeah, no, that's not true. If the officer's in their own sector, wherever they are, so let's get that going. Yeah, so if an officer is somewhere around here, you can deploy a unit over next to him. That's one thing you can do. It's a way to speed up getting across the map if you're kind of triangulating the vector of the enemy. The other thing you could do is you can always, if you're if your guy gets shot, you can always put him back on one of the starting spots. So, and you can dismiss an officer. Why would you do that? Well, if all the action's over here, you got a guy over here, it might make more sense to dismiss them as an action and then reassign them later or to a location. None of them are going to be like the awesomest moves to make, but they're the closest thing you have. If you manage to get to the objective, then you can, at that time, during your turn, you can say, okay, I completed the objective. Whee! I'm special. If it's the first objective, then everything gets reset up. You have to take a noise token because now they're really onto you and they really don't want you to get your second objective, and then you get going. Sometimes you'll want to maybe wait a turn, do the objective, and then move. Because again, you don't have to reveal the order of when any of this happens. That's what makes it so murky. And there's basically it. If you can get those 2 objectives completed, you win. If you don't, you lose. If you get shot, you lose. If you get shot twice. But that's really the essence of it. There's a lot going on. The solo play is also interesting, and it's quite different. We didn't really use any of the special abilities, but just understand that they add a lot of punch and a lot of contextual help for the defenders at times. Just like these add some can be some pivotal times. The other thing we didn't do as we were making these moves is that you should be noting like where you're going. 10, I don't think you have to shoot, and then you're just like 9, 8, 7. Yeah, anyway. And so you're going to be going through this and marking stuff off. At the end of the game, it's very likely that the the defenders, particularly if they lose, are going to want to see your cheat sheet. So anyway, that's about all we got as far as I can explain. I hope this is helpful. Now let's get into my final thoughts on Sniper Elite. Okay, final thoughts on Sniper Elite, the board game. Now, the first thing we got to do is I always go over the cons, then the pros, and then I go over my final thoughts. So let's go first off with the cons. Now, the biggest thing is I got to mention is the minis. Yeah, no, I know you can tell the problem already without even me having to say it. These minis are way, way too big. Like, way too big. You see, I play in realistic, authentic mode when I play this game, and that means that I never play without my trusty sniper scope. Now, can you imagine me trying to aim, trying to get it in there, looking for that right shot, and then right about the time I go and I see, it fills the entire screen. Come on, people. These need to be at least 50% smaller. That or they need to grow and shrink based on where they are on the map compared to my sniper, so... Whew, glad I got that off my chest. Tongue-in-cheek aside, the one thing I did find that I needed to get a reasonable solution for was the sniper board. The sniper board is the draw-on board, which I did just trying to get it the way it's configured and the way I was playing, with the size that just you might want to look for interesting ways to kind of get it so that you're a little more shrouded. I looked at some of my hidden movement games going, is this insane to ask for a cover? And like half the games had them, half the games didn't. Most of the ones that didn't have them were ones where you either write on a pad where people can't see it anyway, or the whole map is numbered, so you're just writing numbers down. Anyway, it wasn't a big deal because in the end you just need something that the sniper needs to make sure that he isn't being sneakily watched. And if you're any sort of sniper at all, you should have that down. So... The other thing is trust issues, and I don't mean intentional trust issues, I mean unintentional trust issues. There is a need, with this game to have probably the person that knows the game the best start off being the sniper, because you have to trust that the sniper is making the right choices. Now, they can run on the map, and you can do the after report and all that, and that's fine. But it can be aggravating a bit if you're like, that wasn't a legal move. Sorry, and stuff. So, because there's so much hidden information, you have to trust that the sniper is playing to the best of their ability in the game. Not a big deal, just kind of a caveat of something to keep in mind if you're introducing this to a bunch of people. You might want to greedily I'm going to be the sniper first, just to kind of explain it, because nobody likes to find out that, I didn't know about that kind of thing. So, anyway, I'm not going to lie, from a what's in the box when I open it standpoint, I was... somewhat underwhelmed. I pre-ordered it. It was about $120. I got the expansion. I got the base box. I got the deluxe upgrade. It does lean a bit towards the sparse as far as comparatively speaking other titles I bought in that price range. Part of it is there's a skewing of people like me who have like lots of Kickstarters and games and stuff, and you see a similar price point with just over the top content. And if you're not in that boat, you're not likely gonna see any deficit in this. You're not gonna have anything to compare it to. I consider, however, the expansion to be indispensable. I would not be happy with the base box alone. The expansion adds so much. It doubles the maps, and they're not just doubling the maps; they're doubling the like the just the little extra complication to to the new expansion maps that make it a little more interesting. I'd love to have more expansions. This system all but demands more maps. You could make maps ad nauseum. You could add more loot cards and stuff, and really just keep the talent happy. So and again, there's more to value than just price versus gray matter. Not the gray thing anyway. So if gameplay is righteous, then your value is assured, even if you have like not wow time. And I'm not gonna lie to you, the initial run of my game, my very first playthrough or so, it was like meh. It's okay. That changed. We'll talk about that in the pros. The other thing is, and this is sort of a general thing, is that I really kind of miss when objectives are just nondescript. I mean, in the end, they did a great job of kind of going, here's some flavor text about what your mission is. It's like this and that, and go here, infiltrate this and that. But really, it's just a place on the map. There's nothing to differentiate one objective from the other than which point on the map you're trying to go to complete the objective in an abstract sense. I wish there was some meat and substance to the actual pieces of the mission objective that you're doing. So, I mean, you don't just go to Stalag 13 and rub sunscreen all over yourself, or, enter the submarine and cook yourself a nice McGriddle, or, stuff. Whatever. It's just a place on the map. It's not a problem with this game particularly, and I think it would just probably bog down the gameplay if there was that kind of thing. As background information, as a video game developer, one of the games I worked on in the past, an unnamed, unannounced title, was a military shooter, and I had kind of the same thing. I've always been in the mood for something where it's like, like you have these missions, military missions, and then, like your job is to deactivate, the bomb at Supply Depot 42, and you get there, and you're like, okay, click the button to interact with it. You did it. So I'm always on the lookout for that. I hope someday we can see some objectives or something there that gives a little life to each objective. Don't know how I do it. Don't really know. Just a side note. Not a big deal. Let's get to the other final con before I get to the pros, which is that you're going to have to change your mind to understand that solo is a different game. I'm just going to say it's a different game using the pieces that we have. Do not go in with the prejudice of the solo is basically simulating the multiplayer. It's not. It's not going to simulate a multiplayer Hidden Moon game. It doesn't even even try to do that. It does its own thing with its own initiatives and its own objectives and conditions of success. So just again, caveat. So let's get into the pros, because that's really where I start to get real smiley. And all these false teeth finally start paying for themselves. The rule book. Love the rule book. There's not a lot that you have to know to play this game, and I'm glad they didn't overthink it or underthink it. When it came to actually giving you a rule book worthy of Mordor. There's a slightly different sequence to it, and so it kind of like goes, here's some pieces, here's a high level of what you do as a sniper, a high level of what you do as a defenders, and then it goes into more detail in pieces of that. It's a little bit of a different structure and sequence, but it works. And every page in the rulebook does something I really like. Every page in the rulebook has a built-in Q&A section on the sidebar. It's like they actually tested this game, and then they thought, wow, people are asking the same questions. I know, let's put the questions and the answers in line right next to where the rule is in the rulebook. Maybe that'll help. Yes, it does help. It is so nice to be able to go, this is the rule, and I instantly think, okay, what about these three situations? Sidebar. Oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? It's premonition. Thank you. I appreciate it. Please, people, do more. I love it. Line of sight. Now, line of sight rules are made for this game as an homage and as a gateway to feeling like a sniper. They massaged the line of sight rules for this game. They didn't just borrow line of sight rules from other games, more complicated. Fields of Fire, Last 100 Yards, stuff like that. Yeah, they made it their own thing. And the important thing with this is that you have your mindset shift. It shifts from walls are everywhere and I have glimpses of cheese to aim at, versus I'm in a room, I'm peering over the edge, or hiding behind an oil drum, or behind a curtain, or setting myself up, etc. In other words, once you adopt the mindset that you go into the video game with to the board game, it all clicks magnificently. It just really works. It shows that the design was heavily invested in crafting Sniper Elite as an homage to the Sniper Elite video game series. I think they pulled that off in spades. As for the maps, as video games go, you get, game maps get a lot of attention. You don't just throw a map in there unless you're trying to do, a cheesy 100 great maps that aren't or whatever. And so you see a lot of attention to detail that, an average person might miss. There's some love and attention here to these maps as well. You can tell, you can see the sighting rules, you can see the action unfolding, you can see the efforts made to create maps of plausible usage and interest for both, your defensive people and the snipers. So points to there. I really, really wish that they'd do a deluxe edition with 3D maps like Company of Heroes. Can you imagine how cool this would be with that? Now let's go over the other unique mechanic, which is the bag building sniper system. Because I don't really think, I haven't yet found an exciting way to directly map to a board game the I'm aiming a sniper rifle. Caching guns doesn't count. You can't really, that's just not a visceral way. The closest thing that SEAL Team Flicks is probably the one that reigns the most supreme for creating the most amazing tension and giving you the direct visceral feel in that regard to tactical squad combat because of its flicking and the ways that it handles sort of the flicking action. That does work, but that's not going to work here. What does work here is the bag building, because you're still getting the tension, but you're basically taking that tension and applying in ways that aren't spatial or dexterous. You're going, okay, like I can, I'm taking that risk. I'm aiming. How much, almost like breathing. How much am I going to take a shot? Versus how's my, they don't do the breathing thing, but just imagine if they did, going like, hey, we got, you've got pros and cons, or what weapon you use, or where you're positioning, all that stuff just gets distilled down to a push your luck thing. Now, that might not be for everybody. That might abstract it too much, but it works for me, and it works here great. Another example of that was 303 Squadron, which was a Kickstarter from earlier this year, where instead of having spatial combat, they had sort of this system of combat that still felt like it pulled off a dogfight, but without the spatial elements. I think both sides work well at all player counts because the sniper, you're one. But the other game, like you could play this 1-on-2 and I wouldn't feel any. You're moving the same. It's not really that big and burdensome to have one person moving all three versus three. The only thing that you're going to not get in a one-on-one is basically the chitter chatter of little feet as they try and figure out whatever. You're not going to get the cross noise of going, I'm sure he's here, I'm not sure about that. But it still works. Whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, it works well. Now the solo, you have to. It was interesting to me because when I saw that the solo was being done by David Siertze, of whom I played, countless numbers of his solo modes in various games, I was curious to see, because I didn't believe it possible that you can truly replicate a solo experience with hidden movement in this fashion, verbatim, as if you were playing the multiplayer game. I just didn't think, like, how could you? You really. It just seems like something that, maybe someone can. I don't know. God bless you if you can. But I did see, once I read the rules, that yes, he did what I expected, which is to deviate in a way that provides a very alternate, entertaining play style. Some people didn't like it. Some people were very much like, like talked to a couple of people locally that were giving it a shot too. In my playthroughs, they were all multiplayer, so I'm speaking for myself solo. But if you wanted it to be the multiplayer, it's not going to be. That might disappoint you. That's okay. I don't think that in any way, shape, or form this was just tacked on. Nothing David Searcy does is tacked on. It's all there for a reason, and that reason was to provide you with an AI experience, 1 to 4 players. So I mean, why not? If you can do it, do it. And he did it. It's again, it follows a different set of rules. You have a totally different mind structure in. It's not going to be the same, but I found it satisfying. I didn't mind it at all. Someone questioned, would I buy this if it was just solo? Probably if it was just solo, they might have even made some different changes. It's not, though. It's meant to go, hey, if you're by yourself, you can still play on this map and have some fun. And then if you bring it into the 2-4 players, you're going to have awesome fun. I mean, yeah. So sometimes the AI thing gets, anyway. Anyway, the solo is a satisfying endeavor. It complements rather than replicates its multiplayer counterparts. So in summary... There are 2 target audiences that I can see for this game. 3, maybe. But the 2 biggest ones are people who played the video game and then find out that the board game was made. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. Huh. And then there are players of tons of board games, lots of strategy or tactical war games on a map. And they're coming into this going, oh, here's another one. I'm an interesting beast because I'm in both camps. And so I can kind of speak to both, although I don't know which way I'd skew. I wasn't originally an early fan of the early Sniper Elite video games, mostly because of, like, at the time, I don't remember right, but you couldn't save in the middle of places, and so it became, like, an hour of when I had kids, and these games were out, an hour of time uninterrupted, we called a nap. And so, but Sniper 4 was the first one I really kind of dived into, and I dabbled with them on Steam sales and whatever, and I dabbled. Sniper 4 was really the first one that I really got into that I thought was a nice balance between mortality, firepower, and stealth, without being a truly stealth game. When I played, I can tell you why this game resonated to me the more I played it, because the first game... When I first played Sniper 4, the video game, the first thing I did as I was going out with my guns, just kind of like, I played a bunch of first-person shooters, and some of them have these sort of like quasi, sniper mode kind of thing. They're more like action snipers. This is more like, try and be a real sniper, you dope. I went out my very first mission, and I remember I was sneaking around, and I climbed up to this tower, and I saw this perfect shot on this officer, and I just lined that sucker up, took a deep breath, shot, and bam, knocked him right out. Woo-hoo! I felt good for about 3 seconds, and then I noticed that every single organic thing in the map was just like, uh-oh. And that was the story of my first journey. I learned then that there are better ways to do that. So what's funny is that when I played Sniper Elite, the board game, the first thing I did was cleverly think that I had moved myself into position for a very easy shot to get to the first objective. Again, history repeats itself. I got the soldier, I got lined up, soldier between me and the objective. The distance was 2. I'm like, I'll use 4. What did I get? 2 hits and 2 sounds. And what happened? It didn't take long until I was blocked off, sealed off, triangulated like the sniper who wears clown shoes. And that's the kind of same feeling. You be stupid, win stupid prizes. On the other hand, it still gives you the feeling, you get to think the way you think in the video game. I love it. I mean, Sniper Elite doesn't follow the convention of board gaming more than it follows the spirit and intent of the video game, and then it maps it exceedingly well onto a board game format. So, as I played it more and more, it's become more and more engaging and really stands solidly as my second favorite hidden movement game, behind only Hunt for the Ring. If you get the deluxe edition and you ever have a bad day, you can know that your buddy, Testicle Man, is probably going to have a worse day than you. And that in itself is worthy. Anyway, top notch, great stuff. It gets better and better the more I play. Who could want for more? So thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games. So I'm peeking over there. I'm waiting for this guy to come by, and just as he gets to whatever window I pretend is there, kabam! Ooh. No, no. Timeout.